Hi friends, it's Rebecca from New Creation. This is our fourth Sunday of Advent, which means it's the last Sunday before Christmas. So when we see each other next, it'll be Christmas time. This whole Advent season, we've been asking questions about Jesus's birth. And today we're going to ask the question, what was Jesus's birth like? Like when he was actually born? Now, we don't have really firm answers. We don't know how long Mary was in labor. We don't know what time of day Jesus was born. We don't know if he was born feet first or head first, because those things weren't written down. But we do have some ideas about how childbirth worked in first century Palestine, based on some other sources. So we'll look at those today. Remember that Jesus was probably born in the family home. So at this time period, everybody had to return to the city their family was from to be counted for the census. And Mary and Joseph were both from Bethlehem. So they went back to Bethlehem and they would have stayed probably with their family members when they returned. I can imagine that some of them might have been surprised to see that Mary was pregnant. Remember, you couldn't send news like that in the mail or make a phone call or send a text message. Some people maybe had heard it through the grapevine. It would have been pretty exciting when she showed up, ready to have a baby. Probably they would have not stayed upstairs, which is the upper room you see in this picture. It would have been hard for her to get to, and it sounds like it was full from other relatives from the stories we have. So down on the first floor, cozy where the animals are, that's where Jesus was born. We don't know, again, who all was there, but we can imagine it might have been a really full house, and people would have been excited to see each other in the first place, right? Not often that you would get to see the whole family together, and extra excited that there was going to be a new baby. So I think there would have been a lot of people to help out. There's a Roman writer from this time who writes about what people would have needed to give birth. He said it this way: for normal labor, one must prepare beforehand. Now listen to the list of things that he says that you should use to have, that you might want to have around to have a baby, and see if any of them seem unusual to you. Here's our list: olive oil, warm water, warm fomentations, soft sea sponges, pieces of wool, strips of cloth, a pillow, things to smell, a midwife's stool or chair, 2 beds, and a proper room. Well, you probably know what some of these things are, maybe not others. Fomentations means ointments or poultices, like medicine that you rub on, like if you have a boo-boo. A sea sponge is like in the picture here. This is actually an animal that you take it, when you take it out of the sea and it kind of dries up, you can use to scrub and wash. Wool, that comes from a sheep, you know that. Strips of cloth, that could be used to wrap up a baby. Things to smell, like lavender or other herbs or spices that make a person feel relaxed. Who was there to help? Well, this is a painting of someone giving birth. You can see here's the baby right here. But this isn't really probably what Mary and friends and family members would have looked like. This is a pretty Eurocentric the version, so painted by European painters who put European clothes and made the people here look pretty European. But you get the idea. There would have been a lot of people around. Like, well, everybody from the house of David was in town. So all the family members might have been around, like cousins, aunts, and uncles. So how was Jesus born? We've got lots of options to describe how this might have happened. And of course, we don't know. We don't know if it happened really fast or if it took a long time. Sometimes babies come out really quickly, and sometimes they take hours or even days. But here are some ways that people techniques that people have used in this part of the world during this time to give birth. You heard me say earlier the word birthing stool. You see that in this picture on the left. There's a woman sitting in a chair, which would have been called the birthing stool, and another woman behind her with her arms around her. And that would have helped the pregnant woman, the mother, be able to sit up So the woman behind her would have held onto her so that she didn't double over, and she could help elongate her body to help push out the baby. And then the woman here who's kneeling to catch the baby. And another version of this, one woman would actually kneel, and then the pregnant woman would sit on her lap and sit on her knees. And you use another woman, the doula or the midwife, as a person to press against while she pushed out the baby. This one, people still use today, is called a birthing brick. And you can see that the woman here puts her knees on the brick and kind of stands against this and puts pressure on them while she has the baby. So those are some options for how babies were born. We don't know which one Mary used with Jesus. The story tells us that this is her first baby. So maybe she didn't have a preference yet, but maybe the women who were helping her and were around her, maybe there was one that they knew better how to use. And then Jesus would have been born. How was he cared for afterwards? Well, back then, some techniques they used to care for babies is they would rub them with wine and salt. And those things both have antiseptic properties, so they kill germs. And then they would have rinsed him off with warm water to rinse off the salt and rinse off the wine. They would have rubbed olive oil, remember that from our list, to keep his skin nice and soft and to help him feel calm, because that rubbing motion helps calm babies down. And they would have wrapped him in strips of soft white cloth. You've probably heard the phrase, away in a manger in swaddling clothes. He would have been wrapped up in soft clothes to feel nice and snug and safe, because it is very hard work to come out of the womb where it's soft and dark and cozy and warm into the world. There's a really big temperature change, and there's a pressure change, and there's changes in noise and light. And so that would have been kind of startling for a baby. So that's one reason we wrap up babies when they're just born. Here's a picture, a pretty famous picture of a painting of the birth of Jesus. And again, it's by a European painter. So you see the people here look European, and this artwork style is European. But I like this picture because the baby is so bright, and it seems like he's almost glowing at the center of the picture, like a candle or a light bulb. And I like how everyone is so happy to see him, including the children in the picture. Well, I hope you learned a little bit more about the birth of Jesus today. If you have questions about what you heard, you can ask me, or you can ask Derek, or you can ask another grown-up, and we'll help you find more answers.